This is Off the Break Podcast, presented by Silver Screen Insider.
Welcome to Off the Break Podcast, your podcast dedicated to current movie theater news, operations, and insights from the people that book the movies. I'm Cody, and with me are Kyle and Ken.
Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going all right.
Surprisingly reasonable.
Yeah, well, we had a little bit of a break last week. We didn't podcast last week, and that's probably good because there was a bunch that happened in the news, and I just needed to divorce myself from that and just be like, my industry is not falling apart. My industry is not falling apart. We are all good.
We would have had a legit nervous breakdown live on the show.
Yeah, it was just too much.
Woosah.
Instead, I was
Mamoasa.
we were at our lake cabin being like, there's a gas leak. I don't have a tub. And panicking over that. So.
And
Yeah.
you definitely
The
didn't.
plumber
need the
didn't show up.
wait.
No, I didn't need the added weight.
The day we had a gas leak, the day the plumber didn't show up, was the same day Mulan went to
Yeah.
Disney Plus. It was literally the end of the world.
I know.
It just would have broke. Something would have broken
I-
each of your guys' heads.
I nearly broke that day. I was just like, keep it together, Cody. Keep it together.
I know for myself, like getting that news in the office, I'm literally the only one left in there at this point, and I'm like, oh, this can't be good.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave quietly and lock the door.
It's time to head home now.
I'm not
Yep.
going to say anything about
Where is
this.
my safe place?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me. I'll just walk away and pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
See what tomorrow brings.
Well, on today's podcast, we're going to talk about some upcoming releases. Obviously, we'll touch on the Mulan issue, the AMC Universal PVOD window issue a little bit more, and then the Paramount Decrees issue, and we'll get into the fun classic corner and Kyle's Sweet and Happy corner.
Oh yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for it all.
So let's talk upcoming releases. We finally have some legitimately on the release schedule that I am like actually making bookings, people. This is awesome. So I like to just shout out to Warner Brothers. Thank you for not moving Tenet. And I'm very excited to get going with this.
And a backhanded thank you to Disney and
Yes.
Searchlight for putting their movies on the 28th. New
Yep.
Mutants and History of David Copperfield.
Yep. So
Mulan's a completely different subject. We're going to separate the art from the
Right.
artist here and just
Yep.
be excited that we have 2 new movies from Disney.
from Disney, and then and Solstice Studios is definitely going with Unhinged on the 21st. So get your paperwork in, people. Paperwork. They can't book you if you're not set up in their system.
Yeah, this week was kind of weird because all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, like there's nothing moving. Like we're actually going forward with it. So I had to make
know.
sure in our upcoming releases that we had all the materials that our subscribers would need and
Right.
whatnot. So I was kind of
We
doing a bit of a
we-
rush job, but we're good now.
Yeah,
we're good.
we had to
Everything's getting
find-
set up.
We were like, is there early show times? Are there advanced ticket sale dates?
Yeah.
What is good? Like,
Conversations you
yeah.
haven't had in 6 months.
Literally
Yeah.
6 months. We now finally have film frames and mini ads for upcoming movies like New Mutants, Unhinged. I think there's one more, Bill and Ted. I think we do
Yep.
have some. So check it out there if you guys want some of those types of materials at silverscreeninsider.com.
yeah. It's
The
so,
movies
oh,
are
it feels
coming.
good.
The movies are coming.
It's
are.
weird, but
There's-
it's a good weird though.
Yep. And we all need to make sure that we do our part to make sure Tenet pops. We don't necessarily, people need a big gross on Tenet. Everybody in the industry knows that there's no possible way you're going to open with a $30 million gross or $60 million gross. But, if we get like a $20 million gross and then the next week we get another $20 million and it sustains, this is what we need to do. We need to sustain it. And if those benchmarks get sustained, then Warner's is more likely to keep Wonder Woman in October, and the other studios are more likely to maybe move something up, maybe not move something out of, Christmas and Thanksgiving. So a lot is riding on Tenet. So even if you don't think that Tenet is a movie that traditionally would do well for your theater, or you don't want to give it multiple screens, or you don't want to hold it 4 or 5 weeks, we really got to throw out what we normally perceive as a run of a film and just do all we can to make sure this works, because there are so many eyes on this film right now.
Oh yeah, especially since it just released everywhere else in the world except for the U.S.
I think isn't it releasing this week.
Oh, is it this week?
Yeah.
I thought it was last week.
Or
Okay.
is-
No,
My bad then. False
Is it
information.
21st?
I thought it was either the 21st or 26th.
Anyway,
We don't pay attention to the international releases, but
no. Well, I feel like our millions of listeners fall into two camps.
Yeah.
Those that are theater owners and operators, and you guys know what to do.
right.
Promote Tenant to the end of time. I mean, regular conversations you're having with people outside of the theater, tell them, hey, Tenant's coming out. Please help support us.
Right. Get on social media, learn to make a Facebook post and boost it.
Not
Create
one.
ads, target your audience, do all that stuff.
We always tell people you have to have one a day.
Yep.
You need to have several a day until this
this.
comes out.
You need to, because the studios aren't right now they're doing target promoting. They're not doing the blanket promoting that they used to do. And so it just falls on the pressure of the theater owner and manager to get those butts in seats. Like now is more imperative than ever for that.
Yep. And then our other camp of listeners, people who are just curious or interested in the movie industry, get out to the movies.
Yes.
Go out and see Tenet. Go out and see anything. Even if you're just slightly interested, get out.
Right.
Get yourself acclimated. Tell people that the theater was clean, it was sanitized, you were comfortable. If you
Yeah.
were. But
if you
you're-
weren't, don't say anything at all. And let us know
if you're-
which
Lie.
theater. Let us know. Be a tattler. Let us know which theater.
Yeah.
We will cut you, theater.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And
I
if
will
you're-
shank him.
And if you're not quite comfortable yet going to the theater, these theaters are going to be offering all sorts of crazy show times. Find a 2:00 show on a Tuesday
Yep.
when you can be out there by yourself and go. Mask up, glove up, do whatever
Right.
you have to do. Or just buy tickets online. Just
Yeah.
support your local
Just buy
theater.
tickets. You don't have to go.
But
Just
support your local theater and
Yep.
get out there.
Oh yeah.
And I would say
Now's the
it's
time.
actually more important to buy a ticket and not go than to buy gift cards at this point, because they really need to report back to the studio the gross amount. Like it needs to show that people are coming to these movies. And if you like just buy a gift card, which is great, it'll help the theater, but it's not going to prove to the studios that they need to be releasing their product now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Unhinged on the 21st is going to be our first $1 million weekend.
Yep.
Most likely. The following weekend, New Mutants is most likely going to be our first $3 to $5 million weekend, likely. If Tenet can hit
Tenant over
10
Labor Day.
if it can hit 10, 12, $15 million,
Oh
they
my
can really
gosh.
show the film companies that
Yeah.
theaters are viable. This is a real
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
We can start up. I mean, Tenet's going to run till Thanksgiving.
Right.
At
Like
these
I
big
said, these-
multiplexes.
For sure.
The Tenet isn't going to be a big flash in the pan. It's going to be a slow burn, and that's what we need. We need it to
Yep.
show that week after week that it's still being supported and people are still coming and it's still drawing out
And
new
if
new
you have
people.
extra screens, Warner Brothers is the one to support here.
Yep.
We should try to keep Tenet on as long as you can, even if it's one showtime 3 months from now.
I would say Warner's and Solstice.
Yeah.
Please, support those film companies through this whole pandemic. This whole time, Warner's and Solstice have been very adamant about being on the theater side. They've been super supportive. Warner's especially, they really stepped up, lowered their minimums, gave a lot of options with their repertory product, and they had some of the best deals out there for that repertory product. So I just can't say nothing bad about what Warner's has done during this. They've been the single best film company through this all.
Yeah, and Solstice 2 sticking to their guns and making this work, making it a
Right.
theatrical release, because I'm sure at some point there was an easy out.
Oh yeah,
Netflix is like, hey, here's this amount that's going to cover
Russell
all
Crowe and a name.
here's going to cover all your costs and everything, and you're going to put this much away
right.
for your next
I mean,
project.
Solstice is betting their whole company on this right now. I mean,
Yeah.
they might not. That's a big gamble for them to be taking. I mean, this is a big swing, so we want to be able to support them on that, because they, even though they had to move it back a couple times, they still wanted to be the first one out the gate.
And I would check out their website too. It looks like they actually have some good projects that are about to come out with some very interesting talent attached to it. So check out what they have, because they have listed and detailed on what these projects are, and they sound really cool.
Yeah, so we need to support this because we want to make sure that they stick around. But yeah, Solstice, Warner's, let's get it out there. Let's support them right now.
It's happening, guys. I'm getting giddy.
Yay.
It's exciting. I haven't felt this excited in 6 months.
Kyle's gonna dust off his hazmat suit and see you at the movie.
I was
Right.
gonna say, like, I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna go in at 2:00 on a Tuesday. If the boss will allow me,
Of course.
to go see a movie.
I will
What a
so
great
allow you
job.
to do this. In fact, I require it of you, Kyle.
Oh, I love it.
We'll all go and
And-
sit in the three corners of the theater.
And I want the most glowing movie review.
You would not believe how great what movie you see. It doesn't matter. It was awesome.
I just loved having popcorn
I
at
was
the
in
movie
the theater
theater.
again. I forgot what I saw.
It was better than A New Hope. It was so good. I saw it 3 times.
So while we do have movies actually being released, there is still like some product
Yeah.
that's getting bought by some streamers still.
Womp
Yeah.
womp womp.
So, Antebellum, we have releasing on video on demand on September 8th. So,
18th.
or September 18th, whatever. It's video on demand. It's not in theaters.
Who cares?
Who cares? And then I have The Woman in the Window, which sold to Netflix,
Mhm.
and a film Run, which sold to Hulu.
Yeah, that was from Lionsgate. It was like a horror thriller that starred Sarah Paulson. Kind of looked
wasn't
interesting.
Antebellum also Lionsgate?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
Come
think
on,
the
Lionsgate.
reasoning
What do you
was
think this
behind
is?
Woman in the Window going to Netflix, seeing as how it's a Disney-owned title?
It was a previous Fox title, and they probably just, wanted a bump from it. It doesn't quite fit their branding. It was, at least New Mutants was a Marvel film, so they can put it in their Marvel stuff when they do eventually put it on Disney Plus. But where were they going to put Woman in the Window on their streaming service? Just on Hulu? And
There's
I
not a
don't know.
Disney Plus After Dark.
Yeah. So I think that's
It's not
why
part of their brand.
I think that's why they wanted the cash for it, because it wasn't something they could sacrifice to theaters. It had some value, but it didn't have any value for their streaming brands.
Sure.
Speaking of Disney Plus,
So I'm actually really surprised by this move from Disney. I felt it was a gut punch to our industry. We always said before that we didn't think Disney would do something like this with this caliber of film, because how are you going to make $200 and $300 and $400 million back? And so you always need a theatrical release, but man, this, they announced this before they even saw what New Mutants did in theaters. They didn't even give it a chance to see what the potential was for this. They just sent it to Disney Plus and put a premium, streaming price on it. And
Of
Would-
$30.
I'm kind of, not to be positive in this situation, but I'm glad that's better than 20. Like, I feel like $20 really can change consumer behavior. I think $30 gives a little bit more pause to people, because it's not in their mind just $30. It's $30 plus the $8 they've already spent that month. So it gets it closer to that $40 range
Sure.
in people's minds about what they're paying for this film. And I think that's not as easy to justify, because there's a lot of theaters out there that they could have seen Mulan for cheaper. I mean, and there's a lot of theaters in big cities where Mulan in the theater was still going to be more expensive than that, but there was still a lot of local community theaters where tickets are at like $8 and $6, and for a family of 4 with kids or during a matinee, it would have been cheaper. So
Yeah, when I heard this news, I thought it was really weird. I mean, it's one thing if people are renting a movie for $30, like they'll think it'd be worth it since,
you mean buying it?
or buying or rent?
Yeah.
Buying the movie.
But but this is only a rental.
Right, exactly. So like the rental part of it might put people on pause. Like the fact that they're already spending that $8, like you were saying, like why should they spend $30 for one movie when they're spending $8 a month for
Right.
a whole bunch of more content? It could give people some hesitation.
But I was always a little worried about Mulan. I felt that the direction they took it, taking the comedy out, making it more of a war movie with a wet blanket character, was not going to be for American audiences. It was always going to be for Chinese audiences. And So I wonder if they just were like, this really wasn't ever a movie for Americans, so we'll just put it on our streaming site, because really it's for these Asian audiences because they're going to still do it theatrically where they don't have Disney Plus. And I don't know if they have Disney Plus in China or some of those.
It does not matter. They are going to play it theatrically in China.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they want that worldwide box office money to begin with, so that it's just kind of a win for them in the first place. I'm sure that they did want this to be played in American cinemas.
Well, yeah, but I just don't think it was a priority for them.
Yeah.
In the overall grand scheme of things. So,
yeah, I suppose.
We
just don't buy it, people. Just don't buy into this. It's not a movie that you have to see right away. We all know the story. She defeats the Huns at the end, or this witch thing, or however they changed it. Mulan wins and she gets all the praise. Okay, I've ruined the movie for you. Don't buy it.
I mean, you can also spend your $8 and be able to watch the original Mulan that
Which
they
is
made
with
in
Mushu.
the 90s, as well as watch the other Disney content that is available with those $8.
In the same way that you're going to be promoting Tenet, it's time to tell people that if you really support small business, if you support cinemas, you will not rent this movie.
Right.
And
you will wait. Or not watch it. You will wait till you do.
You support us, you'll skip Mulan.
Yeah.
Just like Cody skipped the entire AFI Top 100 list, you can skip Mulan.
I haven't skipped it at all yet.
I don't think that was a statement about supporting local business, though.
You will.
But just like I skipped Trolls and Scoob, I can definitely skip Mulan.
Scoob was a mistake to watch.
You shouldn't always meet your heroes, Kyle.
Shouldn't always meet your heroes. You're so right. It's
well, they announced the news, and we promptly burned all of our Mickey Mouse ears. And
let's be honest, I didn't have those to begin with.
And then it's you got to separate these decisions right now because it's pandemic time. We're gonna move on from Mulan once it's released. We're not gonna think about it, but we're gonna support New Moons. We're gonna support Copperfield. We're gonna support
what we can and do all that we can as movie lovers, as owners, operators, true showmen, and exhibitors out there, that our industry is still viable, that this is still an experience that people want, and we are going to make it good and promote it.
The owners and operators that listen to us aren't here for the quick profits of the movie industry. You guys are listening and working tirelessly because you love movies and you love the idea of theaters and watching movies together. And you may be limited to 50%, 25%. But if you can open, if you can exhibit, please do. If you can do it safely, please do.
That's what I love about our industry. Not that you can't make money in it. I'm not saying that we're all poor and penniless, but that you're not in here for the millions and millions of dollars you're making. You're here because for the love of being able to showcase these movies, to seeing the public, being a part of the community. There are just so many amazing benefits to this industry. It really truly is magical. It is unlike any other industry that you would ever be a part of.
Yeah, nobody that works at a Walmart or Costco or runs a grocery store or an auto parts store is there for the love of the game.
No.
like you guys are.
Yeah.
A laundromat, they're like, I just really love when clothes are cleaned.
I love the smell of clean clothes, man.
Yeah, you probably despise it.
Smell.
Nobody gets to walk in their office in the morning and smell popcorn from the night before.
Yeah.
Like you guys are.
See a candy counter, watch excited children come and see characters that they love. Watch old people on their dates that they've probably been on for 50 years. There's just such a variety of amazing experiences that you have with theaters.
Beautiful.
Watch Kyle so quietly to the to the theater without making eye contact with anyone.
In his hazmat suit.
Where's Eric to talk about how somebody tore his ticket wrong?
Yeah.
I am curious, though. Do you guys think that this is going to be a one-time thing from Disney, or do you think they're going to be very curious to see if this model?
Oh yeah, no. This is. I feel like this model is something that everybody's capitalizing on. All the studios want to do it. I mean, Sony sold Greyhound to Amazon. That it's just Apple.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's something that's there and that we always have to deal with. And it's not surprising that Disney announces that they have 100 million subscribers globally, worldwide, and then within a few hours announces that Mulan's going to Disney Plus. I mean, in their minds, I'm sure they're thinking, if we only get 10, 20% of these subscribers, even half, if half of our subscribers buy into this right now, we've made our money back. And so that's hard to compete with. That's real dollars and direct dollars to them, and that's always what they've been after. So that's something that we just have to show that, yeah, that's quick and easy direct dollars, but that you get even more dollars with us.
Yeah, one of the higher ups, when I was reading about this decision, was saying like this is a one-time thing.
Well, they're all gonna say that
exactly. And I was just like, yeah, but once you see the people bring those $30 over to you,
right,
and seeing how many people might cave in and watch it, then this will be a different story. And that's what makes me really nervous.
But I think that, you know, they're definitely capitalizing on unprecedented times, and they, I think, are purposely trying to change behavior by offering this now. They want the behavior of moviegoers to change, and it probably will have some fundamental changes to movie-going behavior moving forward. People will have gotten used to this model. They will not, you know, you get out of the habit of movie-going, and so that's just going to be an issue we have to contend with for now. But, you know, it is kind of a race to the bottom. There are not that many people willing to shell out $30, even $20 consistently and not have the experience, the experience of going out, of, you know, of being with other people. I mean, you can only have movie night at your house so many times before it gets stale too.
Trolls was a unicorn.
Yeah,
it was 4 weeks after the country got shut down.
And the whole country was shut down at that point.
People were locked in their houses. There was literally nothing new. We ran out of Tiger King. We ran out of Michael Jordan's Last Dance.
Yeah, we did.
That was all we had. And our kids were driving us crazy. And, there's a troll.
Right.
we can ignore our kids for an hour and a half. Sign me up.
Oh, it's worth $20.
It was a unicorn, but these things are going to slow down, and if they don't consistently perform, these will become fewer and further between.
Oh yes, I think we're worried now, but like Ken said, if they don't consistently perform, which I can't imagine they are,
don't support them.
Yeah, if we don't
support them.
But also, I think that we need to keep in mind that the number of people that are going to buy at 30 is not as many as the number of people that want to buy at 10, and that's not as many as 5 and at $1. So eventually, they're going to start devaluing these movies because the value is this perception that there's built-in event to these films. Like, Mulan was supposed to be in theaters, but now I'm going to get to see it early. If I just pay this little extra bit of money, I'll get to watch it. And that works now in this context of this pandemic, and it will work for some PVOD movies moving forward, but eventually it's going to be like, well, if they don't play in theaters, where's the value in it? It really just is now turning into streaming movies, and we all know that those are garbage and that we just don't care to click on them. And so they have to support the theaters because that gives a perceived value to these films. So whether the value is I actually go and see them in the theaters and I have that experience, or the value is I'm getting something exclusive if I just pay for it, whatever it is, that only is there in the context that theaters exist and that they're a part of the going experience. If they didn't exist or were extremely limited, I don't think people would value these films and want to pay 30, 20, whatever it is. And as that goes down, does it really make sense?
It's just funny to me that we live in a time where we think it's worth it to pay $30 to have like a movie night in your home.
Yeah.
When like back in the days where there weren't any pandemics and no streaming services, like, you know, $2 you pay for a movie and that's your movie night. Like that was a nice feeling. And now, I don't know, $30 to me is just, it's just strange to me. Like it makes sense, I guess, when it comes to like the theater industry, because like, you know, you have families and you have to pay for tickets plus concessions and whatnot. But I don't know. I'm just remembering simpler times and I want those again.
Me too. So, I don't think this is going to be something that lasts or kills our industry, but it just means that we have to evolve. We have to get more creative, and we have to do more work to get those people in. And that's going to be tough. I'm not going to say that's not going to be easy, but it'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something else that will be there is friction between the major three.
Yeah.
Again. Now, we were gone last week, but we did discuss this before about AMC signing
Right.
up with Universal to shorten the theatrical window.
Yeah.
And then last week, Regal Cineworld and Cinemark announced that they were not happy about AMC and Universal's decision to shorten the theatrical window.
I don't know if this isn't just posturing so they too can get in on the cost sharing, the profit sharing.
You absolutely know it is, but let's just be excited
Let's
that
just
one
be-
of the big,
let's just
two
be
of the big
swayed.
three
Smoke
got excited,
screen
just
that
like
they're-
Universal's
Oh.
like, or AMC was like,
Yeah.
forget Universal, we'll never play anything again. Also, 14-day theatrical window,
Right.
and profit sharing.
I'm just praying that one of them doesn't pull an AMC and does that. I'm hoping that
Nope,
they're actually.
They were today. We are 100% skewed by the news cycle. Nope, they're
feel-
good.
I feel
Regal
like that
and
is
Cinemark
such
are
a-
good.
Look at this shiny thing.
Oh,
They
hey, the
said
shiny
no. They said that it was a bad model. That,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it.
oh,
I like it.
and the other reaching around being like, "Where's my share? Where's my share?"
Here comes the knife in your ribs around
Yeah.
the other side.
Yeah.
That's okay. Shiny object.
Today,
Yeah.
we'll look at the shiny object.
So yeah, there's probably gonna be. They're just posturing for their profit participation. But like I said, I mean, you're not gonna only participate for this short time during the pandemic while profits are gonna be good. But the slower that your slice gets, the less incentive. So
I forget which CEO said it, but they said they are willing to have conversations with studios, but it just hasn't happened yet. I wonder how true that is. I do wonder
that
if-
they're talking. That's not that true.
Yeah, I have to think Universal has gotten to them already and has at least initiated talks. And I do wonder if other
Yeah.
studios have started doing that with them and AMC as well.
These
Right.
aren't unions; they're businesses, so they're always gonna have conversations.
There's
around-
always a line of communication open between
Yeah.
these guys.
Yeah, no.
Read between the lines,
He
I
says this,
suppose.
and right now they're negotiating between 0.5%
When
Yeah.
we get out
to
this,
figure this out.
when we get out of this podcast, like it's very possible that
Kyle,
people will
don't
be
say
like, it's knock on wood. I'm knocking on
Yeah.
wood currently, but whenever this
Well-
happens with us and recording podcasts,
Yeah.
that something always drops.
Well, you know that the theatrical
Knock on wood.
window had to collapse. It had to condense. It was going to be smaller. We're just sitting here waiting for like what we hope will be, say, something like a 30-day or 45-day window, and praying for that and hoping that the AMC 17-day window just goes away. That just does not exist moving forward. Yeah, knock on wood.
Again, we're praying that
Yeah.
this doesn't keep getting worse and worse.
Right.
And that's kind of all we can do.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, shiny object. Look at it. It's
Yeah.
nice right now, but you never know.
Oh, what is that? Is that a black storm cloud on the horizon?
Yeah.
No. Shiny object on the other side.
It says Paramount Decrees on the cloud. There's,
no,
there's
no.
writing on the cloud.
Right. I know that this seems like it could be a bad thing because it's a change that has governed our industry for 70 years. But in reality, I think that you're not gonna see a lot of change with it. Now, could there be some negative potential? Yes. What the Paramount consent decrees did was went against vertical integration of corporations with all of the services. So movie studios couldn't own movie theaters, so that they didn't own production and distribution
And exhibition.
Yeah, they didn't own all three components. And that's really governed the way studios have done business for like the last 70 years and how the industry was kind of propped up. Now that that's kind of gone away, that has a little bit politically to do with an administration keen on getting rid of regulations. And that was pretty low hanging fruit to be like, oh, look, we're getting rid of regulations. Because that didn't have huge, massive effects. Will this change anything right away? Probably not. I don't think that as cash strapped as all the studios are right now, that they're like, oh, I've got money to burn, let's buy some theaters. Will they maybe eventually buy in and have some theaters to show stuff? Yes, that probably may happen. It may happen with Netflix. It was going to happen with the tech companies who were not part of the Paramount consent decrees. They were not traditional studios. They weren't around when that was signed, so they were never beholden to that. So they could have always done that. Regulation in the last 30 years, they have really not frowned upon vertical integration. So that was just happening in other industries as well. It was about time it happened to ours. So what if say a Universal buys an AMC because they might have a secret sweetheart deal, a loan, you might say, under the rug, or maybe this PVOD is a lease to own situation. Who knows? But let's just speculate that that's the case, and that they may buy into AMCs. The real question is like an anti-competition question, is if Universal owns, say, a portion of AMC, are they going to then still distribute to competitors in those markets? And I think that there's a lot of anti-monopoly laws right now on the books. And so I don't think that they're really going to be allowed to say to not, give product to competitors in markets. I think they're going to make it really, really hard. They're going to have a threshold. They're going to have clearances. They're going to have all these things. But, the clearances have really been taken to court in the last few years. And while nothing major has been decided on it, I think there's been a couple lawsuits that came really close to getting rid of clearances. And so that will just be an issue that's already been there with the Paramount consent decrees and will continue to be, I think, litigated in the future. Yeah,
and the physical presence of the buildings is something that they're already testing out by going to these PVOD formats.
Right. Well, that's their whole argument, is that that before it was bad for consumers because they weren't getting they didn't have access to all of the different kinds of media. Well, now they do via technology. And so that makes that argument really hard to say this is bad for consumers. It's definitely bad for theater owners and others in the industry, but is it bad for consumers? No. And that, I think that's that would be really hard to argue.
Oh, it looks like that cloud has gone away and the sun is coming out.
Now, you might think about like, well, those decrees also got rid of some other nasty things that were happening, including block booking and circuit dealing, where, the studios were saying you have to book all of our titles just to have our good titles. Now, in the case of Universal, that would kind of suck if I had to book every Universal title just to get Fast and Furious 9. But in the case of Disney, we wanted all their titles. That was not an issue. The issue was not being able to have access to all the titles. So I don't think block booking is going to become an issue moving forward. And as far as circuit dealing, that's hard with independents. You're not really part of a circuit, and the circuits play everything that the film companies play. So I don't know. Pricing issues could come into effect with some of that, but there's a 2-year sunset on that, and anything that they do would always be subject to current laws and regulations now. So I don't see them like really stiffing anybody.
It's funny that you say that block booking doesn't scare you, because it kind of does for me. I guess I'm kind of thinking of it from the consumer side. Like, I don't really want to be going to a theater just to see like only Disney titles. Like, I would like a wide variety. Right. I would not only like to see, some of the big, such as Disney, showing their movies, but at least also some of the smaller guys like Lionsgate projects or A24 films.
Right. Well, that's not block booking. That would be that they own Disney owns the theater and is only playing Disney product.
Right.
But I don't think that
it does mean though that titles would be left out if a Disney title opens when Kyle's artsy fartsy French film comes out from A24.
that would be then they have to say, to get our movies, you can only play our movies on your screens. And that, I think, crosses a line. They can't dictate what you play. They can just say, we want X amount of screens, we want X amount of showtimes, and we want a certain ticket, a range of a ticket price.
But I'm sure the studios would try and fight that, don't you think?
What do you mean?
Wouldn't they try and fight to have like almost all of their product being shown?
Well, but it already is. You have a 12 to 15 plex. They are showing everybody. There's no one is getting left out.
It has to do with the little guys with the limited amount of screens, and
it's your mom and pa's with twins.
That's what I'm at. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Your business.
But the problem with that is the studios don't care about those theaters, so it's a fight for them to even get the product to begin with. The theaters aren't clamoring, or the studios aren't clamoring to get their product in those theaters. That's not the issue here. They showed their true colors in 2012 when they were more than willing to let 20% of the market go on digital conversion. You convert or die at that 35 millimeter. And there was a lot of little theaters that said, we can't afford this. And they're like, too bad. This is what we're doing. So they don't care about that 20% of independence, that lower end, section. They're not, I have to fight with Disney and some of these other ones just to say, look, this makes sense in this theater. Family product makes sense. You're not going to lose money on it. But they want certain levels. They want a certain market, film rental rate, and they want to make sure they get a certain amount out of every print and a certain amount out of every theater. And if your theater is on the lower end of that, you just don't make the cut sometimes. So I don't see that changing at all. And as far as the big ones, the only issue is if Disney, say, bought theaters and had Disney cinemas.
Yeah.
Okay. And then because they branded it Disney cinemas, they're probably not playing, Warner's titles or these other things. And that's where but Disney owns that, and they can play whatever they want in that cinema. And that's not the issue. The issue is if there's a Disney cinema and you're, within the same town, and Disney says, well, we're not going to give you product because the Disney cinema plays all of it.
Yeah.
That's where the issue comes in. And I hope that doesn't what happens when this comes out of this.
Yeah. I don't see the studios.
Or Universal Cinema or Paramount. It just makes more sense when you say Disney, because you think because there's Disney stores. I just think that makes them more realistic.
That's just the example that we're using. I don't see any of them right away trying to buy out theaters. They're already strapped for cash, and they're, focusing on streaming services now. That's the game for them anyway.
They want direct to consumer relationships. They want to cut out the middleman. They want to cut out the theaters. They would keep theater. They wouldn't mind theatrical if they could own the theaters themselves. But it's just that competition. It's just a monopoly if you withhold that product access from competitors. And that would obviously be litigated right away. I don't see where the studios would have a leg to stand on, saying that this, we're not breaking any laws by not allowing you access to these,
You did say you thought streaming services would be the first ones to probably try and buy theaters, right? At least that's
down the road,
so.
Netflix, those may buy some brick and mortars just because what that allows them to do is say they've quote had a theatrical run and qualify for awards.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
But that could have happened with or without the Paramount Decrees. So
yeah, I guess since they technically weren't a part of it to begin with, there was nothing stopping them.
No, and
that's a good point too.
Technically a tech company. They're not a studio. They do but that's getting muddled because they do produce their content now, and so what classifies that? It's just so much more complex given the technology.
Right.
All right. So let's dumb it down then. Let's summarize this.
Yeah.
Disney good, Disney Plus bad.
Yeah.
Cinemark, Cineworld Regal good, AMC bad.
Yes.
Paramount Decrees being removed, bad. Now on to the good stuff. The CCC, Cody's Classic Corner.
I watched Duck Soup, the 1930s classic with the Marx Brothers, all of them. I didn't realize there were 5 Marx Brothers.
Did you think there was?
Is
just
this
the
a
two?
question? Are you asking
No,
us?
I know.
I'm sure.
I looked it up last night. They're 5.
Okay.
But after this movie, I think this was the last movie they were all in together.
Touching.
Because they had a contract with Paramount, and this was the last film that they did with that, and then they kind of all did their own thing afterwards. I didn't realize there were 5.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Like,
Did you know there was 5?
No, that's why when you were asking me, I was
Crazy.
like, you could have told me any number, and I probably would have believed
I've
it.
heard the name Marx Brothers and Groucho Marx. I just didn't put 2 and 2 together, and I didn't know that you put 2 and 2 and 1. That there was more.
Huh? Whatever. Anyway,
So,
the movie.
the movie. It was a interesting mix of like miming, slapstick, comedy. Yeah, it was just musical. Yeah, there was like
When
just
the
a
picture shows were first
a
coming up.
hodgepodge of stuff in there. I have heard the name Groucho Marx. I didn't realize, and I knew he was a comedian, but for some reason I thought he did more. This is just more stand up. I didn't, or maybe movies. I didn't realize he, one, was so old, like it was in the 30s.
Yeah.
And 2, that this is the. I didn't realize his mustache was painted on either, like in that huge.
You expect them to be able to grow such large mustaches.
Well, I just thought the mustache was generally large because you get the Groucho Marx glasses and stash stuff. So it's very recognizable feature, and I just assumed it was a real mustache. I never really looked close enough. So when I watched this, I was like, that's so painted on. It's so weird. They had a vaudeville background, so it's very much like a vaudeville slapstick, funny comedy. I didn't think it was very funny. I didn't especially.
But in the 30s, you would have thought it was hilarious.
Maybe. I didn't especially like.
You would have said it's on the AFI Top 100 right then and there.
I just didn't like
Yeah,
the
see?
backhanded like humor where it was like they say something funny and then they say something insulting and funny right away, and it was just like and then insulting was supposed to be funny. I didn't think it was funny at all.
Quick quips.
That was dumb. Because
Keep it moving, kid.
Because it means like he was always
only got an hour.
He's always making fun of his woman benefactor, and she just had to stay there and be like the straight person and just ignore what he's saying.
Did she even speak?
She did. Yeah.
She reacts,
she was
right?
Like,
she's supposed to react to what they're doing.
Oh, fire, Rufus.
Yeah.
She's like in love with him, and yeah, I don't know.
This one crack your top 10?
No, this was. I'm so glad it was short. I could not handle any more.
I think you might have said this like a few podcasts ago. Like there are probably some movies that don't need to be on the list anymore. It's very possible Duck Soup could be one of them. Like,
is it the only Groucho Marx? I feel like it's only on the list because of that. Like they wanted to highlight these brothers and this comedy and this, you know, it's more of like a legacy film than actually being really good.
Sure.
Because this one wasn't.
Are mostly legacy films, Cody.
Yeah.
But there's at least some, quote unquote legacy. But there are some that really do like stay strong to what they're supposed to be. The whole test of time. And then there's probably some where you're like, you know what, this could be bumped out for something else. Yeah. So that might be a good example.
Not the worst, but not my cup of tea. Let's say. It was interesting though.
I don't think it'd be anyone's cup of tea in the year 2020, if I'm being real.
Yeah.
But it's also like a difference in time. Like you have to think of it in those terms.
I was more interested in looking them up on Wikipedia and finding out about their history and their love lives because there was a lot of divorces going on than I was about the actual movie I was watching. And yeah, I think they're more interesting outside of that movie than they were. And then that movie was being on this list.
But it is cool that like movies can at least make people curious about history. That's also kind of like that's part of the point of why we have movies is to show moments in history or moments in culture and entertainment. So that's definitely like a very good example of being disconnected from that, but at least learning and appreciating could be a word to use.
Maybe. I thought Groucho Marx had a very clear voice and that it sounded very modern. Like the way he spoke in that movie sounded like and maybe how quick he spoke sounded more modern, because when his lady benefactor spoke, that sounded like how you would think like people would talk in movies back in the 30s.
Sure.
And he talked like how they talk now. I
Which
would
is
say more.
interesting.
Yeah, and to me it was like, I feel like he's a modern like actor stuck in this old film rather than,
I mean, certain parts of comedy, there's always ways to where it gets passed down and gets molded to where it works better for.
Well, I think he
each
just
modern
talked
time.
like he would if he was with people, rather than I think a lot of actors at that time had been stage actors, so they
Sure.
talked like they were acting on a stage,
Yeah.
really like pronounced, and I don't know, like it just sounded different. It sounded like from a bygone era, and he sounded very much like he was just a modern guy trapped in that 30s film.
I mean, I'm sure he wasn't a stage actor.
No, he was a vaudeville actor. They went around and did little shows and stuff
On stages.
on stages. Yeah, but he didn't
it's
he
not-
wasn't like classically trained
No, I
like
know.
Shakespearean,
Right.
where you bring some of that back to
You almost
the,
had me.
Yuppies over there. It was not
Well,
a
just-
stage actor.
yeah, and he didn't talk like that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He was no Jimmy Stewart.
Well, no, he was no mumble mouth, but
Okay, so for your movies next week, you get to choose the
Oh,
category:
gosh. Okay.
a western,
Okay.
cop movie, war movie, or
All my favorites.
modern classic, which for AFI means from the late 80s, early 90s.
There it
Because that's
is.
as new as it gets.
Again, maybe bump some out.
I'm torn between the modern classic and the western. Actually,
I would choose the Western.
what year is the western from?
74.
It's not a modern classic,
56.
quote unquote.
Let's try the western.
69. Western. So
Yeah.
you have the choices of Wild Bunch, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, or The Searchers.
Let's do Butch Cassidy, because I've actually booked that a bunch of places. I've never seen it.
All right. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid coming
There
at
you
you
have
next
it,
week.
folks.
Prepare for Cody to be annoyed and frustrated.
You thought
Once
you hated
again.
Jimmy Stewart. You're in for a treat.
Who's in this one?
This is Paul Newman. I'm
Okay.
thinking was it Paul Newman.
He does the salad dressings.
I just know that all-
I knew he was an actor.
I just know that they're all going to be much more mumbly than
Oh gosh.
perhaps Jimmy Stewart was.
Yeah, the Paul Newman, Robert Redford.
Robert Redford.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why I blanked on his name.
Okay.
No, the good thing that you looked it up because I was trying to search for it too. I was like, wait, who was that? But
Okay. Now to
So,
Kyle.
for me,
Kyle
right?
got to watch A Night and Day with Tom Cruise. We were on a roll
Yeah?
with this kind of like comedy, romance, spy situation. So, what did you think? What did we decide? That Mr. and Mrs. Smith was the A title.
Yes, and then
That
Killers is the C,
C
plus
title.
version.
Yeah,
so this
and
is like the B movie.
Yeah, what do you think? Is it the B movie?
Yeah, but I actually give him more credit than that. I
Yeah.
actually did enjoy watching it a lot more than I thought I would.
Because Tom Cruise is good. It's just
Oh, yeah.
in that role, I actually like him. in
Yeah,
that.
no, I liked
He's
him too.
funny.
He was funny in it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know that he has like some comedy chops to him, but
June.
like, yeah,
He's like, with me, without me, with me, without me. You're not seeing my hand motions right now, just listening to the podcast, but it's a funny
You'll-
part in the movie.
Just look up the clip for it and
Yeah.
you'll be able to find it. No, I mean it was Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I just wasn't really expecting, this type of subgenre of like romantic action type of movie to be as entertaining as I
With-
was.
with
and
a-
Tom Cruise makes the most of
With
it.
a massive budget.
It was
Like, you're like, I've
quality
never
is
heard
there.
of this movie. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they spent $120 million to make this
Yeah.
movie
Is
I've never heard
that's
of.
not Paul Dano in it, is it?
It is.
Yeah, Paul
Yeah.
Dano, Cameron Diaz.
Woof.
Viola Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was
The cast is like, really?
it is a really good I think it's a really good cast.
Yeah.
I mean Pierce Sarsgaard's in there too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was directed by James Mangold as well, who recently did like Ford v Ferrari. So as soon
Yeah.
as I saw his name, I was like, holy crap, maybe I will like this movie. And I ended up having a good time with it. It's definitely better than Killers. Like, there's no. I mean, if we're comparing the three, it's no competition. But it's pretty close to how much I enjoyed Mr. and Mrs. Smith, though. Like,
I'm torn. I think I like it slightly better than Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
I wouldn't blame you.
Only because I think for me now, Angelina Jolie is like, I know Tom Cruise is crazy, but Angelina Jolie is like a dirty crazy that I just don't.
Scary crazy.
And the fact that they like
Careful, she might hear this.
got together and then broke up in it just ruins it a little bit for me. So I think but
it was a little strange when Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz were, drugging each other.
Yeah.
Like, that was probably the one thing where I was cringing at, where I was like, could you get away with that now? Maybe not. But I mean, at the same time, though, it still had like its funny moments. That's for sure.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Before we get to the rest of Cody's list, I was thinking about other couple spy movies that fit in the genre.
Let me mark this off.
Now,
Cross it
I'm
off her
assuming
list.
Kyle's seen it because it's a major title, but
you may be surprised.
Things that have been off this list that's in this subgenre, like I was talking about. Have you seen True Lies?
No. I
So
have
this-
not.
so
I told
if-
you may
so
be surprised.
So if Mr. and Mrs. Smith is an A title in this,
Sure.
True Lies is an A+++.
Plus.
I have heard great things about
Made by
True Lies.
James Cameron,
Yeah.
starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Lee Curtis, and still on cocaine Tom Arnold.
Yep.
So the good Tom Arnold.
The
Yeah.
good Tom Arnold.
I mean, this is going to like blow your mind that you missed this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This is.
I mean, I kind of want to give him more
trying to think
of
of-
a lovey romantic one, but that one's so good. I
And
think you
I
should
have-
do that
I-
one.
Your
I have
significant
heard
other
great
will like
things
it, but
about
this is
Yeah.
like, as far as like well-rounded, this may be one of the most well-rounded James Cameron movies.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it has all of the romance and comedy and action, and it's over the top, but it has all of those things in it. Like, it's surprising.
But they were all bad. That's my favorite line in the whole movie. But yes, I killed people, but they were all bad.
No, and especially if
it.
you go into it without
Yeah.
researching it or looking into it anymore, you'll be surprised at people that show up.
Yep.
So it's really that's a great one. I was looking through the list just now, and I'm like,
Okay, let me
I
write it
wonder
down.
if he's seen this, because it was one of those, like, if you were born in the 90s, in the 80s, you absolutely saw it. It was just part of the culture. But if you were not, if you're born in the late
I was
90s,
born later 90s.
late 90s,
So,
then
yeah,
it could have
that's
been
fair.
missed, and it did.
So I'm fine with that.
All
I'd love to
right.
watch that one.
True Lies.
There we
I'm
go.
jealous.
Let's watch Butch Cassidy,
Oh man,
a Western classic.
I'd rather watch True Lies. So much better.
Why
I
not
tell you
both?
already.
Why not both? I might
have
watch
to.
Butch Cassidy.
Kyle's
Yeah.
been keeping up with you.
What did I want to watch at the cabin the other night? I was like, we should stay up and watch this, and now I can't remember what it was.
Butch Cassidy.
No.
Well,
Anyways.
we
Bridge on
we
the
don't have
River
answer.
Kwai.
Answer. It was something really cheesy. I love how during this pandemic I've been rediscovering all these old movies.
That's well, weirdly enough, it's a good thing the pandemic did happen, so that
Yeah.
way, at the time while we started doing this segment,
Right.
it kind of worked out, at least in that smallest little aspect of it being positive. But everything else is bad, like for
Oh yeah.
sure.
No.
Oh yeah,
Everything
we
else
forgot
about
that.
this
Pandemic
pandemic.
bad.
Yes.
Pandemic bad.
In case if everyone forgot, we're still in the pandemic. It's still bad. But we're actually getting movies. Like, there's movies actually being released soon.
Did you
or
guys
next
hear
week.
that they're gonna remake Home Alone?
Yeah, that was like a while ago, wasn't it?
I was just thinking about that. But Ken brought up a funny meme about how they should recast Macaulay Culkin as Macaulay Culkin as he is now, and
As
have
an adult.
Yeah, as an adult.
There was a commercial that
So,
kind of did that,
yeah,
right?
he did a commercial with the Super Bowl where he played himself, but there was somebody started an online petition to have Macaulay Culkin at 38 play Macaulay Culkin at 10, and nobody mentioned that he is not a child, obviously.
Like he still has to
he's an
act as a
adult in this
child.
house. And then there was a Macaulay
like
Culkin,
a millennial that just never left.
Yeah, and a
Yeah.
Macaulay Culkin retweet back that said, "I absolutely despise this because I'm not 38, I'm 37. Otherwise, I'm in."
So
Yeah,
he
and then he goes,
totally
and
would
then-
be down.
And then I will do it. I accept.
That's amazing. I remember like 2 years ago, there was this story going around that like Ryan Reynolds wanted to remake Home Alone, but it was like gonna be a stoner comedy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like what you guys are probably saying, that it's a millennial who's just also a stoner.
I think
never
that
left
would make
home.
it so much more fun for me to watch rather than a
Yeah.
little kid at home.
Worried
I think-
about the
yeah.
kid being lost and alone and
And-
scared.
And bad guys are trying to get to him. No, this would be so much better.
It's so funny because Home Alone, it's like a childhood movie that like people my age grew up with,
Yeah.
but I never saw them. I never saw those movies for some reason. Like I would see like the covers of like the Home Alone movies, and I see Macaulay Culkin doing like the face, and I
Yeah.
would just be like, "No, I'm good." Like for some reason, even my 5-year-old brain, I was like, "That doesn't look cool to me." So
No, I think like the remake would be like Anna Kendrick, like stuck in her house, and the
Yeah.
guys are trying to get to her, and she's like, "I'm a smart, independent woman, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna knock these guys out with a paint can flying off my banister."
Yeah. That'd be awesome, actually.
I'd see it. Why not?
And then she has a ditzy friend, Anna Faris, that's trying to run around and get caught all the time.
Yeah.
I'm maybe Anna Faris needs work. Maybe that could work. I don't know.
He's got all that overboard money now.
I know.
All that
Was it a
remake.
lot of money?
Have you seen the original Overboard?
No.
Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell?
For some reason, I was thinking Mel Gibson.
He's like,
I'm
who's-
thinking of a different.
That's
Who's-
Bird on a Wire.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Goldie Hawn and Mel Gibson?
Okay,
That's
right.
another one. Put on the list.
I mean, sure.
You know what? If you want a Mel Gibson romantic comedy movie, you should get Maverick. Watch Maverick.
I'm hearing
That's a
Ken
Western.
giggling to my
That's a
side.
Western. Can I watch that one?
It's obviously not on the list.
Damn it. Okay, fine.
I don't think Mel Gibson's on the list.
Braveheart. It's not on the list.
Oh, that
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
that's
I
a
thought-
little surprising.
Yeah, I thought that would be.
Yeah, you think?
Oh,
right.
Maybe I think of Gladiator.
We got a funny story from the other day. I asked Ken to book Stand By Me. Does everybody remember the classic coming of age story Stand By Me?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And Ken goes, "Have you even seen that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've seen that one." And he's like, "What's it about?" And I'm like, "These kids go on a search for a dead body." And he's like, "What?" 'Cause he's never seen it. I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, who's in it?" And I'm like, I couldn't think of the other kids, but I was like, River Phoenix. And he's like, "What?"
She's nailing it so
I
far.
know.
So I had a very different memory of the title of this movie. I grew up in a very diverse area with very poor schools that resembled the schools in Stand and Deliver, not Stand By Me. Stand and Deliver is the Edward James Olmos
I've not seen that movie.
project about poor schools and him being a great teacher. And yeah, so there was a little bit of miscommunication there. But
What a role reversal. Normally it's
Yeah.
Cody that's like, what?
yeah,
Oh,
But now
Absolutely.
Ken's like, wait a minute.
yeah. We were not communicating. And then I
didn't
was
think
like,
there-
then he looked it up and I'm like, yeah. And then when I saw the cover, I could name the other people. And I was like, yeah, it's fat kid Jerry O'Connell. And Ken was like, Jerry O'Connell was fat? I'm like, yeah, that's part of his story. That he was a fat kid growing up and that he lost all the weight and got to turn into a beefcake. Anyways,
If
What?
you,
these are the really
We're-
intellectual
we're trying to-
conversations we have in our
we're
office.
trying to dig in for quotes for social media. That's the one, Kyle.
Yeah, I think I found it.
Jerry McConnell was fat kid, and then he was a beefcake.
Then he
That'll
turned
get
into
the
a
clicks.
beefcake.
All right, let's wrap this one up.
Okay.
All right, everyone, thank you for listening to this episode. You can find other of our episodes on many podcast platforms and at silverscreeninsider.com. And there's movies that are being released. So if you need to get prepared for like new content, go check out the website to get all the marketing materials and information that you will need for them.
Or just Google fat kid Jerry O'Connell, now beefcake Jerry O'Connell.
And you'll find the link immediately.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.